America, land of the free and home of the brave. Our country's foundation was built by the brave people who came here seeking a new, better life. Immigration is deeply and firmly rooted as part of our nation's identity. So why is this topic so widely debated today? This question will be answered through the exploration of policies and stigmas surrounding immigration. In the last decade, over 10 million immigrants have arrived in the U.S. How many immigrants have there been since the founding of America then? The answer is simple. Anyone who has ever lived in the U.S. is an immigrant. Immigrate, to come into a country of which one is not native for permanent residence. Xenophobia, fear and hatred of strangers or foreigners or anything that is strange and foreign. With this film, we hope to combat xenophobia, stigmas, and euphemisms surrounding immigration in order to promote a fair, unbiased system. Some of the very first instances of xenophobia in American immigration policy is the Chinese Exclusion Acts of 1882 and 1892. Chinese immigrants came over to the U.S. and took on many jobs. Their willingness to work for lower wages led to animosity towards them, and, eventually, it led to the Chinese Exclusion Act. The Extended Acts banned Chinese labor immigration for over 50 years, and led to movements for immigration restriction all over the world. The Immigration Act of 1917 tightened restrictions on immigrants from Asia and surrounding areas, and those with mental and physical disabilities. In addition, it imposed a literacy test and harsh medical examinations for entrance. Executive Order 9066 allowed for the designation of exclusive military zones for the internment of hundreds of thousands of Japanese Americans in so-called relocation centers. This euphemism masked one of the most egregious abuses of human rights in American history. It was said to be for the protection of Japanese Americans, but in reality it was a response to the xenophobia caused by the Pearl Harbor attack. The system of immigration in the U.S. has been turbulent since the establishment of the country. Throughout history, we look at our internal affairs and point our fingers outwards, blaming our problems on external sources. Even when a foreigner becomes a great part of our nation, they are often not acknowledged as so. This results in the alienation and discrimination towards immigrated people that ultimately culminates in these vicious actions. Hateful, ignorant acts like these can feel so divorced from today's society. Americans don't know better. It's all in the past. We're much better now. But in reality, this is still a prevalent issue today. History has repeated itself with corrupt and unjust policies like the Muslim ban. The xenophobia hasn't gone away, it's simply found a different target once more.
It is the opposite of what is being portrayed on TV, where everybody thinks it's so easy to get a visa to come to the United States, to get their green card, to get their citizenship, but it's very restrictive. You have to be statutorily eligible for certain things in order to receive any kind of immigration benefits. So, and the pathway to obtain any kind of permanent resident here in the United States is very long and arduous for a lot of people, and that should definitely be changed, the whole immigration policy in itself.
In order to legally immigrate to the United States, foreigners have to undergo the following process. 1. Be sponsored by a U.S. citizen, employer, or relative. 2. Apply for a visa. 3. Travel to the U.S. 4. Apply for legal permanent residential or green card. 5. Complete the naturalization process, including passing the civics test.
I came in as a refugee, and so the standard is pretty much the same for all refugees during that era. I was only 3 years old. So the process is similar to it was back in the early 80s as it is today. The only difference is that it's limited now. So previously, the United States took in a lot of refugees. So the President of the United States determined how many refugees they would take in a fiscal year. As So back in the 80s, it took a lot of people. I was in a war-torn country, but in Cambodia. But here now, even given the situation all over the world, especially in Syria, the current administration has the lowest percentage of visas allowing refugees to come to the United States. So we're looking at only like 25,000 compared to like last year, like 40,000. So they're minimizing refugees, people who are in the midst of, a war-torn country, fighting for their lives to not seek refuge in the United States.
For most, the challenges do not even end with successful immigration. Immigrants often feel isolated and unwelcome in their new environment. A big factor behind xenophobia is the stereotypes that come with being an immigrant.
Well, a lot of times when you think of an immigrant, a lot of people tend to regard people that are, first of all, don't speak really good English. Sometimes they're a little bit lost. Sometimes you might think they have very different culture and they have a huge culture shock, so they have a difficulty adjusting to the U.S.
That they are not educated, that they're not intelligent. The stereotype is definitely because immigrants came to the United States, the only work that they could obtain are basically labor work. So because of that, they believe that individuals do not have the intellectual ability to succeed in the world. So that's why they'll say, hey, there's only people that take these types of jobs.
In reality, immigrants are entrepreneurs. Among startup companies that were valued at more than $1 billion in 2016, half were founded by immigrants. Among Fortune 500 companies, 40% were founded by immigrants or their children. In reality, immigration increases the GDP per capita in advanced economies, as shown in a study by the International Monetary Fund. Becoming a U.S. citizen is a long, grueling process. It is incredibly impressive that foreigners are both willing and capable of completing it with the financial and personal barriers they must overcome. But instead of receiving the respect they deserve, immigrants face further hardship with unfair stigmas and discrimination. As they say, America beckons, but Americans repel. A survey conducted of people living in the suburban areas of Seattle showed a majority of people wanting to change the immigration system, and most of those surveyed believe immigration is a major issue. Most people wanted to let immigrants stay in the U.S. and earn their citizenship through time. One replied, "Immigration attracts the top talent of the world to the U.S." Not only does the arrival of immigrants improve universal performance in industries, it creates more job opportunities with the need for more housing, services, and products.
I think that America as a whole continues to innovate. And the more we innovate, especially when you look at artificial intelligence, machine learning, we are people who have been educated here and have enjoyed benefits here are not taking the same jobs that immigrants are taking at the lower end of the scale. So the argument that the immigrant labor is going to take away American jobs is actually very flawed. Removing the per country limitations is actually something that I would love to see happen. Per country limitations are basically caps on immigration from each given country.
Now that a better understanding of immigration and xenophobia has been reached, what should be done to help? Combat axes: animosity, xenophobia, euphemisms, and stigmas around immigration. Animosity and xenophobia. If a just and welcoming attitude towards immigration can be maintained, the great diversity that is the cultural touchstone of the U.S. can be utilized to create a more unified nation. Euphemisms. We need to be aware of the seriousness behind immigration and avoid making light of the topic. Stigmas. Instead of making assumptions about immigrants and believing stereotypes and stigmas, questions should be asked to better understand them.
We live in King County, which is a shining example of what immigrants can do. The things that I'm proudest about of the United States are our diversity. We're a nation that's built on diversity. We were founded as a result of providing refuge to people who were escaping persecution. Our focus, our Constitution, our focus on the rule of law, those are the things that really make America and have made America the greatest nation on earth. And immigrants have played a role in that. I mean, if you look at, historically, the waves of immigrants that have come, You're talking about, the Chinese who built the Transcontinental Railroad. You're talking about the Italians and the Irish who worked the mines in the 19-teens and 20s. You're looking at the waves of farm workers who farmed, in the 1940s and 50s, the orchards in California, Oregon, Washington.
It's all up to us to defend the diversity that makes us a unique cultural melting pot. Let's combat Axis for the sake of the native, naturalized, and new U.S. citizens. After all, no matter where we come from, we're still people, American people.